I'm sorry, but I can't tell you my name, because I work in the palace of King Herod, and if he finds out who wrote this story, my life will hang by a thread. Herod is not known for being merciful. He's even had some of his own family members put to death. However, this is a tale that needs to be told, and it involves some unlikely people. The first inkling I had of this story was when news reached the palace about a small group of travellers who were asking some strange questions. These men were from Arabia, and because they studied the night sky, they had become aware of a new star in the heavens. They believed the star was a sign that pointed to the birth of a special person, someone who would be king of the Jews. So they travelled all the way to Jerusalem to find this child. The people of our city were quite troubled by the questions the travellers were asking. I think they guessed how Herod would react, and when news of these visitors reached the palace, it frightened him. He knew about the ancient prophecies, like those of Isaiah, that foretold the coming of the Messiah, the person God had promised. Anyway, Herod called the priests and scribes to the palace to find out what they knew about such a person. The priests and scribes were in no doubt about what the prophets had said. "It will be in Bethlehem," they replied. "The book of Micah makes that clear." And they quoted the prophet's words to the king. After they left the palace, King Herod sent out a messenger with these instructions: "Find the men from Arabia and bring them to the palace. But do it quietly. I don't want to cause any unrest." Well, the travellers were brought into the palace, and Herod pointed them in the direction of Bethlehem with these words: "When you find the child, come back and tell me where he is, so I can go and worship him too." When I heard what Herod had said, I'd have to say I was surprised. It seemed to me like the only person the king worships is himself, never mind a rival to the throne. The travellers set out for Bethlehem, and we waited rather anxiously for their return. A few days went by, and when there was no news of them, King Herod became even more agitated. After a week of waiting, Herod sent his messengers to Bethlehem to find out what had happened to the travellers from Arabia. The story the messengers brought back caused the king to explode with anger. They had tracked down the inn where the travellers had stayed. The innkeeper told them that these men had found the child quite easily. The star they had followed reappeared and led them to the right house. They had given the child's parents some very expensive gifts. When they returned to the inn, they were full of joy at seeing and worshipping this promised child who would one day be king. But, the innkeeper said, early the next morning, I found them loading up their camels, about to make a hasty departure. When I inquired as to why, they replied, "We've been warned in a dream not to contact King Herod, but to leave the country as soon as possible." And that's what they did. When the king's messengers had finished their story, and Herod realized he'd been tricked, he went white with rage. He ordered his best soldiers to go to Bethlehem and search out every boy aged 2 years and under and kill them. And that's what happened. It was a grim time for the people of Bethlehem. They were so distraught at losing their children. I'm not sure what happened to the child whose birth had provoked Herod to such an evil response. I did hear a rumor that the family escaped to Egypt. But there's one thing that puzzles me about this story. Why was it that no one in Jerusalem seemed to know about the birth of this special child, and yet hundreds of kilometers away, in far off Arabia, it was revealed to those travelers? Sometimes it's hard to understand the way God works, isn't it?